Shall we call to order? First order of business, approval of the minutes, which I would like to say, Liz, they were rather exceptional this week. Very.
Motion approved. Second.
All those in favor?
Bruce, aye.
Jan,
They have to go.
Jan, you go first.
Hi, Jan.
Mark, you're next.
I Mark. Hi Patrick. Hi Bruce.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Randy. All those that have approved. Jan, could you give us a report on the planning board meeting on September 17 and what happened? I understand you were successful.
I'll make it very brief because I know most of you were at the meeting, but I know Mark and Bruce were not. So we had a very lengthy discussion, 2.5 hours of both the housing production plan and quite a bit of discussion about the Moore's property as part of that. At the end of all of that discussion, the planning board voted 5 in favor of approving the housing production plan, 1 opposed to it and 1 abstained. So it passed.
We'll come and so we
the,
can. Okay, great, thanks.
It passed the planning board, and I have since sent a note to the select board, including the revised draft and also a list of the changes from the draft that the select board had seen previously. I asked to be that we be on the agenda on October 3rd, but I gather they're not going to have a meeting on October 3rd. So the next meeting is the 24th of October, which I think it will either be hopefully on that agenda or on the November 7th agenda for the select board.
Is that right, Patrick? Or
Yeah, I think that James is going to be out of town. Isn't that right, Chuck? And then, so we have a special permit hearing at an October 11 meeting, but we'd really like everyone to, or is that wrong?
No, we got us met the 24th. Third, they have a meeting. I got a commitment, open it. Continue that special
Okay,
meeting because
right,
deal things, and that's it. So
Okay.
if I would be the November meeting,
all right. Yeah, we'll get it done.
what is it, November?
we'll have to look at it later.
Okay.
Send your question and we'll.
In
Okay.
November.
So November what?
We don't.
Do you have a date?
First Thursday in November. Likely, but this is up to Jamie, who's not in the room. She's the one who does the agenda.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Thank you very much. Anything else? The planning board did approve it. First of all, I would like to tell you that Jan did a yeoman's job, 2.5 hours behind the podium speaking, and we really appreciate the hard work and the effort you put into this, Jan. It's really incredible. But they approved it without any changes, is my understanding. Jan, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, the grant, the grant has been approved, and Dawn Lemon is the woman that we've been working with, and she has to be approved and selected, and that probably as the administrator of the grant. But she is starting and reaching out to people, and she already has 3 appointments with 3 people from Stockbridge.
Good.
So I have with me today, if there's any,
Explain what that is, what you're talking about.
the CBD,
Development Block Grant,
Yes.
CDBG.
it's a federal government grant that's administered by the state, and cities have to apply for it. And we applied with Great Barrington and Egremont and Stockbridge, and the 3 towns were awarded 1.3 million. But it's ladled with bureaucracy. And so first, Casey, the people that we hired to file for the grant on our behalf are now in charge of selecting a group, which has in the past been the Community Development Council.
Yeah, but the point is, it's home repairs for existing homes, for folks who live here that meet certain income criteria. It's not for building anything new. It's for repairing roofs and porches and, remediation money, if somebody was ever to try to get insulation or whatever.
But it's extremely attractive because you can apply for up to $70,000 under certain conditions. And if you meet the income guidelines, you can use it to do all kinds of repairs to your home.
You know what those are? What the
Yeah.
top level is?
Yes, the top level is for the income.
Yeah,
Depends on the size of your family.
but.
But
range.
I have it right here. I know for a family of three, and Stockbridge, interestingly, our medium area income is higher than Great Barrington. The answer is 90,000 in Stockbridge for a family of three.
And unless if you're a single person. So,
If you're a single person, it's 63,000. And if you have any other interest, it goes up to 118,800.
if you're like 8 is enough or
If
something.
there are 8 of you. Right. So it's a pretty broad range. And we should have a number of people in town who can apply. It's a
Median
first,
income here is 45,000. It's really, okay, a lot of people could benefit from this. So just trying to get the word out.
but to give you an idea, this is just the preliminary information right here. And anyone can contact me. I can give you Dawn's phone number and her email, and you can request an appointment with her and she will tell you everything you need to know. But that's not the application. That's just the preliminary information. The application is 100 pages long. I mean,
And one other thing, none of these applications go through the trust or anyone in the town. It's completely confidential. So this group that Randy's referring to, it processes all the applications, so it's not like you're telling your neighbors what you make or whatever. It's just, if you fall within the income guidelines, you can apply for money to repair your home.
Is there some kind of, that you have to stay in your house for so many years or?
the structure of the loan is that you receive a lien on your property. After 15 years, if you stay in your property 15 years, then the loan is totally forgiven. If you stay in some other number less than 15 years, it's whatever number 6/15 of your loan amount is forgiven, and the rest you have to repay when you sell. So it's a very generous, very, very generous way to improve your home. And if you meet the income requirements, we highly, and I really want to ask the board to, if you have friends or people who would benefit from this program, we'd like to, reach out to them and let them know about it. Because I don't think, it's not publicized enough, in my opinion, that people
Or do a better job.
will know about it.
So the income, that's obviously household income though, so.
Correct.
So the median income in Stockbridge is 43,000 per household?
According to the
It's an
census,
individual.
That's what I thought.
It's around 65 per household.
So then, okay.
But still, it might still qualify. Yeah.
our average should definitely qualify under these guidelines.
Especially like if it's an elderly single person, then,
Sure.
All right. We have received from the town, on behalf of the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, who has given us $32,000, a grant agreement. This is a new procedure that Michael has instituted, and it's a very good one. There's some technicalities that are errors, just informational errors here. And I haven't had a chance to send it out to everyone. So I have the approval on the agenda, but I would like to suggest that perhaps we circulate it to everybody after I get the technicalities approved. And Patrick, I don't know, maybe you're more familiar with it. I just have read it today. It says that we're supposed to spend the money, the $32,500, in 3 years. And we also give them a report every year, which we're very happy to do. But the purpose of the grant is to do affordable housing initiative, so it's broad. It really fits everything that we do. So the money is available to us to do the various things that we're.
Would you entertain a motion that just allows you to figure out the details that you feel need to be corrected with Michael and sign it? I'd be happy to, as a member, to grant you that authority. We don't need I think, to wait till next meeting. I think we should accept the grant. It's a standard thing that everybody who gets a CPC grant gets.
There's some technicalities here because it's the town giving the town.
Yeah, no, but I feel confident that you and Michael can work those out. I mean, if
Would
you're,
you like to make a motion?
yeah, I make a motion that we,
Second.
yeah, good. That one, the one I just said.
I can't even type it that fast.
Let me, just because Liz is getting done, I make a motion that we empowered the chair to correct the technical issues with the town administrator and sign on the trust behalf.
Okay. All those in favor? Jan?
Well, we got to do a roll call.
Yeah. I just said Jan.
Hi,
Are
Jan.
you? Mark? I think you're muted, Mark. Can you hear me?
Good.
Okay. We got the sign. Patrick?
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Liz.
I ran. Okay, thank you. I'll circulate it before I sign it. All right. Approval of the invoice from Foresight. We got a $6,000 invoice from Foresight, which has been the work has been authorized. And I just want to have a motion to authorize the payment of the invoice. And it was for the work that we needed to do on the entry, the surveying of the entry parcel. And we have also authorized the expenditure of funds to get another survey point identified, and that's in the process. But for right now, I'd like to, if I could, just a motion to approve its
Motion to approve payment of the invoice from Foresight.
second.
Second.
Oh, thank you. All those in favor? Jan?
Hi, Jan.
Mark? Oh, thumbs up. Patrick?
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Randy. Thank you. Okay, Pine Woods, I don't know whether Joanna's going to be here. I know she wanted to come with her son, but so at the end of the meeting, we may, there's a little gift that the children from the playground wanted to give us, which is very kind. Just as a notification, we have received a public records request from Mrs. Forbes, and that's being handled by the town administrator and the town. And so that will happen. You'll get your information.
That's a standard. It's a standard request. The town gets many of these. It's absolutely appropriate. We act in public, and I want everyone to understand that if there's ever any information you want, you can request all of our emails or other correspondence, and that is your right, because we're spending taxpayer money. And I just want to kind of emphasize how this is totally okay with the town, and at least with me personally. It's a totally legit. And
Everything that we do is in public. Every piece of information that we have anything to do with is public, and I'm always willing, you're always open to ask for anything that you feel that would be helpful in understanding what's going on. All right, Bruce, you're next. You have a proposal to get the sewer information on the Glendale property.
We have received the formal proposal from Dave Prickett from DPC Engineering for the analysis of what the needs would be for sewage for the former Morris, now Town of Stockbridge property on Glendale Middle Road. And so as soon as I assume Randy as the chair authorizes the proposal, it's again for $7,900, which is the number that David had quoted in his preliminary information that he had provided to me. And basically, they're going to be looking at both a 20 and 60 bedroom development on the parcel for that $7,900.
That was great, Bruce.
And they will get started as soon as we returned an executed copy. And they said it will probably take, I think 2 to 3 months is what the time frame for the work that they're going to be doing.
Okay, just a couple of technical things. Nobody seems to be careful about who they address things to. We become committees and all kinds of things. So I'm going to clean up some of that that's on here. And also they asked to be paid monthly. Ask them maybe if we could,
Which is this?
7,900. I would think that they
I
could.
don't think it'll take a month.
They said monthly based upon the, the work that they've done in, during that time period, but I can certainly ask them to revise that. The other thing that I noted that I've already gotten a corrected copy of is somebody made a typo on page 1 of the standard terms and conditions. And they basically put the scope of service dated September 25th, 2022. And even though every other page on the document says September 25th, 2024.
Anyway.
So I already communicated that to them and I've already gotten a corrected copy, which we can,
I assume that nobody really reads this 9 pages of boilerplate.
Well,
But you did.
you assigned me a task and
This is to show that in your years of medical practice,
Well-
you're very careful.
it's not just a medical practice. It's when you run a hospital and somebody gives you a contract, you better read the contract before you sign it, or else you could find yourself in something you don't want to be in.
Thank you, Bruce, for
So
that.
is this firm or engineering firm one that works with municipalities regularly?
It's the one that works with us.
Okay, so were they involved in the recent sewer expansion on that street 10 years ago or 15, 20 years ago?
They're the ones who've been working on the sewer master plan. As I understand that, right, Chuck?
I don't.
Yes, DPC is the company that is the entity that the town uses for their sewage.
We did
So they're very familiar with what's going on. in
But
town.
that didn't answer your question because
No.
we're asking if it was the one that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
We may not have the answer to that.
When we had to put on the grinders and stuff.
Right.
So have we given them a very clear scope of work this time? Because it seems like when we did the plan for developing the land, it was very loose and they kind of went on their own and tried to do the maximum for the 35 acres. Have we really specified, and have they talked with the town of the issues that the sewer that we put down the street had 20 years ago? Because there was some major issues and that plan totally changed around and ended up costing homeowners more money putting the grinder pumps in because the street is full of ledge, drainage was a big issue. And I'm just wondering if all of that has been put in there so that we get a very accurate number that we can hopefully move on, if the project does decide to move forward, instead of finding out, in the 9th inning that there's a lot more money involved.
Thank you for those helpful comments. This proposal, and you're welcome to look at it, is very specific to this point, not to the level of detail that you just asked about.
Okay.
It asks about what if there were 60 bedrooms added that had to be serviced by the sewer line?
Or 20. 20 or 60.
But
I understand that the sewer line on the street, well, let me rephrase that. From my viewpoint and the information that I've gathered, the sewer line that's physically on the street can't accommodate that.
That's what we've been told.
I just want to make sure that they understand that it may be more than just on
Yes.
the curb.
Well,
Hold on just a minute, Jan.
Randy, it would be very helpful if people in the audience could identify themselves.
That's true.
Because I can't even see some of
Oh,
you.
they can come up.
And I don't know who you are, so.
Okay, how about this?
Just
Yes.
have them come to the table.
Come to the table or the podium and say your name and
look, could I just read through
Yep.
a couple of bullet points? No?
No.
Oh. The proposal basically includes reviewing all available information. So that would include the things. Estimate the average and peak flow rates for both a 20 and a 60 bedroom development for gravity sewer, low pressure sewer, and pump station force main connections to the existing sewer system. Evaluate and summarize downstream wastewater needs for the above alternatives to receive wastewater discharge from the proposed development. Prepare the GIS CAD schematics for proposed connection. Prepare summary memorandum and PDF copy by email, and then to have any teleconference with us in order to discuss anything related to this proposal.
Randy, can we add to the RFP that I want a public meeting with this guy here so the neighbors can talk to him at the beginning of the process and then a report at the end of the process? It might cost us an extra $1,000, but I would strongly prefer if whatever, we have institutional knowledge of what went wrong last time. Let's make sure we don't ignore that as we do it, as we at least evaluate what this looks like. So I'd like to see 2 meetings added to the RFP.
Well, they've already got one at the end.
All right, so then what?
I think you want to add one.
Yeah, at the beginning.
And I think that would be our next meeting, Bruce, if you want to, if you could talk to them and see what additional monies, which I assume would be approved by us. We have already approved 7,900 to do this study. We should approve this proposal, I think.
I'd make a motion to approve and to add up to $500 to accommodate a public meeting and preparation in response to that. So I'd like to make a motion we approve it at 8,400.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion, if you, once you do that and get that approved through them, through DPC, can we have them at our next meeting? So they can, because I don't think they're going to go forward until,
Is that, when is the next meeting scheduled for?
we haven't
Haven't
decided.
scheduled it yet.
All right. I just would like to make sure that if this is the time he's going to be coming to the public meeting, that the neighbors who have this information are available that day, because otherwise the reason to have them at our first meeting is not being accommodated. So, I think that you guys offline might want to just coordinate, and make sure that the folks with the relevant information are available whatever day we're scheduling. If not, we'll have them come to the next meeting after that.
Clearly, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, so I can't refer you.
Right.
Yes,
Peter Zorinsky.
Peter. Could you, if you will give me your email,
Yep, I can do that.
or you're going to be here to hear about when the next meeting is, because we do that, as you know, at the end of every meeting. And so if everybody who's here wants to can voice, if you can be there. And if there's other people who have information, Peter, would you be in charge of making sure they know about the next meeting?
Sure.
And could they be here?
You could be our point person for that, for the owners.
You just got a job by speaking up.
That's all right. I don't mind.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. All right, we have.
Next time you won't raise your hand.
Yes, you will.
I'm thinking if they're gonna spend tons of money on programming.
That's right.
Neighbors wanna.
No, it's fine.
Get rid of our pumps.
Right.
That's true.
Well, obviously, if we do something, it should benefit the neighborhood. So we have a motion on the table. It's been seconded. All in favor, Jan, start.
Hi, Jan.
Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Oh, we have your voice.
Eileen's here too. Eileen's here. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Bruce.
Eileen said she was speaking
Hi,
today.
Liz.
On the proposal, right?
Yeah, she'll be up next.
We already did. It's your turn.
Oh, hi, Randy. Okay.
Jan, did you get Peter's name? Did you hear that?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Peter.
It is one of the bad things about Zoom is you can't really see what's in the room. All right. Eileen, thank you.
We're good, Eileen. Can we frame it just for a second? Because I would like to get Eileen's feedback on a couple of things
Sure.
when she's speaking. Hi, Eileen. It's Patrick.
Just a second.
Hi, Patrick.
Okay, good. Who's Sergio?
Just a practical question for the neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Across the
Pardon?
street from our house.
He said-
Oh, then let Sergio, can you say hello, Sergio? No. Can you hear me, Sergio?
He may be other room. Yeah.
Okay, all
He
right.
does last name.
We need to get his information
They probably know it.
for the minutes. All right, Eileen, thank you. Please, Patrick has some things he wants to talk.
Couple of things. First, a question for the neighbors. Does this property traditionally have a name? We're referring it to the Morris property, the town property. What was it called 10, 20, 30, 100 years ago? Does it have a name like, I know that it was owned by one of the Swans, just, okay. All right, I was just curious about that. That wasn't my major question though. The first thing I'd like to say is I was actually very impressed, and impressed is the wrong word. I was very interested in the comments that Coke gave at the I believe it was Coke, I hope it was, I referred to her in my little thing, at the last meeting. And today at the dedication we had, at Park Street, there's a gentleman there named Eric Reardon, who is the local person who works on Main Street for Housatonic Valley Association. And they are, an environmental organization, a nonprofit. We worked with them, the town worked with them on the culvert assessments that we did throughout the town a couple of years ago. They have a free service. I love that free service. Love it, love it, love it, which focuses on migration pattern issues. And they're scientists, and they actually also will train regular old folks like me and you to even take a look at how they do this. They're willing to do a session. If you go to their website, hvatoday.org, and I have Eric's number, I'll get it to you after the meeting. They've offered to do this for free for us. They do it for municipalities. And I would like to know more about the question of some of the challenges around the brush clearing and, the migration between the animals that happens between that and the Laurel Hill property across the street at Lower Buckers Woods. I don't think that taking care of the animals is the only issue that we have to wrestle with. Sometimes we have competing issues on housing, but we also want to take care of nature. And if we can do this in a way that the professional scientists can tell us will minimize the impact if we do decide to do anything at all, I would really like to hear from them and have them weigh in on any recommendations they can make. And I just reiterate, it's free, so I don't see any downside to it. And they're right in Stockbridge on Main Street in that house over, a couple down from the Abdallahs.
What's the name of the group
It's called the Housatonic Valley Association.
today?
HVA Today is their website.
.org, okay.
.org.
But HVA is the group.
HVA is the group, and we actually hired them we got a grant from Municipal Vulnerabilities to do an assessment of all the culverts in town. And when Allison had Eric's job, I don't know if anyone knew Allison when she was working in town here, she was the one who assessed all the culverts in Stockbridge with Green Acres. So these people are great. They're based in Connecticut with an office in Stockbridge. They have 2 offices. So first thing I would just like to say is, I like the idea of us taking a look at our housing needs, but I also like to do it in as environmentally friendly as possible. And then Eileen, the part that I think is more relevant for your talk is, I'm wondering if the RFP for the planning consultant, we should consider expanding the scope. There is so much. One of the few communities in the Berkshires that is that will be come February 1st, a seasonal community designated by the state under this new law, which says that we must, for example, we are mandated to come up with a tiny home bylaw. We are mandated by the state, Stockbridge, to allow for development for full-time residential homes only on undersized lots. So if you're an R4 and you have 3.9 acres, we are now mandated by the state come February 1st to have a plan to build on those for full-time use only. All right. And I would like to make sure that we're looking at the whole board of where our housing opportunity and challenges are around the tiny home mandate and around the undersized lot mandate and around potentially what we might do on the property with no name that is over on Glendale Middle Road. I think that there's a lot of opportunities we have, and we should take a measured approach to figuring out what is in the best interest of the town here. We're not in any hurry. And Liz, I will say to you guys, I think that with these mandates that could really have a strong impact on the town, it is more important than ever that we revisit the master plan for this town, which is our planning board function, and which has not been updated since 1996. Now, that typically takes a year, but that is the public process that typically would then weigh in all these considerations that we might have around this gift property and around the tiny home mandate and around the undersized lot mandate. And I, for one, don't feel like I nearly have enough information to make good decisions yet. And I just want to kind of figure out as a town, between the board that Chuck and I sit on and the planning board and this board and the neighbors, how we kind of go forward in a way that really does the best thing. I'll just mention one other thing. I went up to the sing-along today at Heaton Court, and Andrea, who's the head of the Stockbridge Housing Authority, reminded me that their board approved taking a look at expanding Heaton Court. Another piece that is on the table here, we talked about briefly, in between singing like songs from Hee Haw, believe it or not, I know. We talked about, the fact that maybe doing something mixed use up there so that not everybody, so that maybe there were a couple of units for just folks in town who didn't income qualify, but who could pay market rents, along with some additional units for seniors. That would allow people to stay in the town. We got a lot of options, is my point, and I don't feel like I'm ready to like make any decisions on those options. And Eileen, other than the top level that I just gave you, I don't know much else. And that's why we're going to really need to make sure that we get really great, strong help in figuring out all of our opportunities and then basically setting our priorities. So that was my setup.
Okay, so how do we organize? Do you know the contact?
I do.
Okay,
I can get you all the contact stuff with me.
well, how about if I point you in charge of getting them here next
Wait,
week?
who's the they?
HVA.
It's Eric. I think that one of us should take the lead on the environmental assessment of anything we want to do. I'm not sure. It could be me, but I think this is an area that Michaela's expressed some interest in. Any one of us could do it. So why don't we see if anybody kind of, now they've heard that, wants to kind of take the lead, and if not, I'd be happy.
Right, but how about if we start with your getting Eric to come to our
All
next?
right, I can reach out. I talked to him today.
Okay,
When
thank you, Patrick.
When we approached the town as available property that could be built on with this, is it Little House Plan, February, the one you were just referring to, tiny house. Did we approach the town when we were looking for pieces of land with that in mind? Because I was really surprised that the
The
town.
law only passed 44 days ago.
No, I get it, but we're looking 5 years into the future too.
Right. And I will say, Eileen and I talked about this about a week ago. They haven't written the regulations around this law yet. So the state's Department of, what is it, Eileen, the Housing and Livable Communities has to write all the regulations on stuff. Yeah, and so none of these regulations exist yet. We don't have any idea what they're even going to do till February.
No, and I get it. I guess I was just a little surprised in that meeting that the town assessor and the town manager didn't come forward with the possibility of any properties when.
Well, we didn't have any that met the zoning. These aren't necessarily town-owned properties. This is every property in town that is undersized. And so, because it's only developable for full-time housing, it's not going to have the same value that if you could put like $1 million house on it or $2 million house on it. So, but we don't have any of the answers to this stuff yet. And just the way that the legislature works, which I learned a little bit about in the last 6 months. I think that sometimes, you end up with a conference committee that isn't really, until it comes out of conference, nobody has any idea what's in it. And I think that many of us were surprised at all the options that Stockbridge is going to have now. I know I was when I read it August 1st or 2nd. I don't know if you were, Eileen.
Yeah, there's a lot in there for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's all right. I was just gonna go. If you have something to frame the discussion for, go ahead.
Jan?
No,
I was just going to say that the housing production plan, in terms of the town-owned property that Michael and Michael Blay both looked at, the housing production plan includes a provision that says, look at town-owned land. And so there's no reason we can't, with this change in the state rules, that we can't and shouldn't go back and revisit all of that and have Michael look at it again with that in mind. And as Patrick said, it's also privately owned land that, would be eligible for some of that.
And then just one other aside, when I was talking to Andrew today, who runs Heaton Court, there's 53 units up there. Unprompted, Eileen, she said to me, I hope you're working with that Eileen Peltier up at Harthway, which used to be Berkshire Housing. She is my favorite leader in the housing space in Berkshire County. So I think that's a good introduction to, I thought that was a very,
Are your ears burning, Eileen?
Yeah, exactly.
Good job.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh?
Did you just go
Right back
underwater?
at you and your authority. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can now, yeah.
We can now.
Okay.
To clear
So
the ball.
I will get off at a rest stop hopefully very soon. I'm driving down the Mass Pike, and in fact,
Uh-oh.
underwater. It's torrentially raining right now.
So, so
As soon as I come to a rest stop, I'll pull over, and then I should have.
all right.
So Patrick, to speak to. Are you not hearing me, Randy?
No, we are hearing you.
It's coming in and out.
You're coming in and out.
Okay, well, I don't know if you want me to keep talking. I think, let me see what mile marker I'm at. I should be at a rest stop relatively soon if you want to do another agenda item, or at the moment, I seem to have good coverage.
Yeah.
You do.
Okay, I think I'd like to,
Let's keep going.
yeah,
I gotta go to Big Y, Big E rather.
all right. I'd like to keep going. The agenda.
Okay, just interrupt me if you're not hearing anything, because I'm hearing you fine.
Oh, good. All right. So far, we're good. The next item is the discussion of having an RFP for a planning consultant. And I had the opportunity to talk to Eileen about some ideas. And as you know, last time she suggested a planning group called Barrett Associates, which is located in Hingham. And I've also had the opportunity to talk to Judy Barrett, who's the founder and the president of that organization. They are planning consultants that do more what I call in my business community outreach, as opposed to planning, which I have most often characterized as drawing a plan on a piece of paper so that we can see what a professional planner and then architect, usually the planners and the architects work together to give us that information. But Eileen, I know you had suggested that perhaps that's a leap ahead of where we should go next. And perhaps if you could come back on and give us your thinking about what, given where we are, what information we have, where you feel we should go next in terms of our process.
Right, sure. Let me just respond quickly to a couple of Patrick's points. So first of all, the master plan being that old will in fact at some point become a problem for us to access funding. So Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, I don't know the last time the town worked with them, but they can offer services to provide technical assistance to do a master plan. It is, you know, a 12 to 18 month process. So I certainly would encourage Stockbridge to look into that. You know, master plan talks about all kinds of things, right? Whether it's infrastructure or housing or education or many things. But it would be something that's necessary at some point in the future when we're applying for the funding. The state requires a more current master plan. So just
That's
note
right.
on that. And then more broad.
No, and BRPC just wrote Lee's master plan. If you go on the Lee website, you can read it. It's fantastic.
Yes, they worked with them for about a year and a half. They had a
Right.
master plan committee. It's also another opportunity for lots of community engagement. It's very much a public process. So it, you know, there's no downside to it other than, you know, it's a fair amount of work for the community to engage in it, to get something, you know, that's going to be meaningful. It speaks to what everyone wants in Stockbridge. And then just briefly on the accessory dwelling units and all, I guess, everything that's in the Affordable Homes Act. I did have the opportunity to talk to the secretary this morning specifically about how our town, so Patrick, I know you're concerned about this, like what is the language we're supposed to be writing? What do we need to be doing as a community to be prepared for you know, this going into effect in February? He made it very clear that they will be putting out kind of, you know, lots of information to towns about almost like technical assistants. They're not, I don't know that they're necessarily going to talk to every town, but they will put out some sort of white paper that helps people understand it. I think the important thing to know is that the Affordable Homes Act is a monumental document. Yes, there's $5 billion, but there are 49 policy changes and many other things. And as you can imagine, they have a lot to figure out. We were on the radio this morning and the secretary was speaking to the seasonal communities designation. Stockbridge, it looks like clearly will qualify for that. There's still much to be figured out. And he kept referencing the fact that there will be a public process as they're defining sort of how seasonal communities gets operationalized. So they'll be looking for input. So as I become aware of that kind of stuff, I'll certainly let the communities in the Berkshires know about that. So it is a lot. Weeks since it was passed, and there's a lot that will come over time. But I think the best thing you can do as the Affordable Housing Trust is pay attention and be ready to provide input so that we end up with a product that isn't solely designed by HLC, really is reflective of what we all think is needed. Yes, Randy and I spoke the other day, and one of my suggestions around the engagement of a planning consultant was really to kind of have a two-phased approach. The first phase really, and Randy maybe gave us some words for it, being more of a community engagement process, where there are focus groups and community conversations about, and this is specific to the site that we're talking about, that apparently doesn't quite have a name or has a confusing name. But we would look for input from the community. The planning group would facilitate a process to do that. So it would, I think, give a really clear platform for input that would be more comprehensive than the Housing Trust can do, in your regular meetings. We did a similar exercise in Pittsfield when we were creating what's called a Housing Resource Center. It is a place for homeless individuals to come during the day, and the Barrett Group, which is the group I had recommended. I'm not, saying you have to go with them, but they did a wonderful job for us talking to people experiencing homelessness, the downtown businesses, community leaders, and, just individuals in Pittsfield to get an idea of what this Housing Resource Center would look like. They produced a really comprehensive report that included what they had heard, as well as sort of national research on models, sort of what they're, from their knowledge and what they've researched, what was a great and effective approach. They didn't make a specific recommendation, but it became a tool that we were able to use as we then went forward to design this space. So I'm imagining something similar to that, a community engagement process where we can sort of collect that input and have that, the Housing Trust would have that as you then move forward to phase 2 of the planning, which is what Randy thinks of as planning, where you actually have, a planning group making some, recommendations of what is most likely the best option for the site. And they would have this document that would have the sort of collective input of the community. So that's the kind of idea. And the Barrett Group, as Randy said, that is kind of their niche. They've worked in many communities in Massachusetts, and I think that they are, very effective at sort of collecting and sort of synthesizing the community input. So that was my thought, is that might be helpful to this process.
And Eileen, I was able to reach Judy We had a very helpful discussion, and she was very clear about what they do. They do not do planning under my definition. They do what I would call community outreach, I used that before, or social science kind of planning, and or data gathering information that I think would be extremely useful to us.
I think it's very useful too. And I guess my question for both Randy and Eileen is this: where roughly 110 days from now, we're going to have, regulations that interpret this law. I would like to start a process as soon as possible, but not so soon that we aren't able to take into account the actual implementation of these laws so that we know what all of our options are. And so I think that we should start, but we should start with the best information possible. And to me, that means that the best information in terms of how Stockbridge is going to be impacted is going to be available beginning hopefully in February if they're not running late. It's the state, so it might be March or April, who knows? And I guess I just don't want to go through a process and then all of a sudden figure out that we didn't take into account X, Y, and Z because it got written in a way that we didn't anticipate. So I'm wondering if we should, take a look at this as really getting into gear in the springtime. I'm asking.
That really means that we hold our project, or project is on hold unless you want to, you could see these two quote planning exercises as cousins as opposed to one older than the other. So, I mean, we could go forward and hire a planner to look at the land now and then go back and look at the laws and have the Barrett people.
And we also could, talk to the HVA folks and try to get a sense of kind of if there is any other input we want to get on siting, for example, from a nature point of view over the next month or two, and then ease into, the larger question. I'm not suggesting we don't do something. I'm only suggesting that we may have a whole lot of options that we haven't yet considered because we didn't know this was coming. And I just feel like we should, this is our one chance. Stockbridge has done two of these in my lifetime. And when I was a kid, we did Heaton Court. And when I was, kind of young, we did Pine Woods. This is our chance to do something. This is our generation's opportunity to do something. I just want to make sure whatever we define as something, we're doing the best thing we can possibly do.
Which is, I'm not disagreeing with you. I am agreeing. The question then is, if you want to wait until we know.
I'm asking you guys,
To next spring.
Well, can I jump in with the thought? I think it might be helpful to ask the Barrett group.
We lost you, Eileen.
We didn't go through the
We lost you.
sort of information. Are you back? Am I back?
You're back, but we don't know what you said before.
Okay. What I was saying is that I hear what Patrick's saying. I think it might be worth asking Judy Barrett, who I'm guessing is quite familiar with the Affordable Homes Act, whether or not she thinks that is a significant enough of a constraint, or that she could do the community engagement process, with some we have some basic information about it. Randy, I know you want to do your planning design work, but I'm hesitant to send a planner in a direction that doesn't have the benefit of the information of the community engagement, like things like this environmental thing. How do we want to address climate issues? How do we want to live in community? What do we want this space to look like and feel like? Not just, how many units is it? I think those types of things are going to come out of the community engagement process. And I think it could really feed the planning design work that gets done. My thought.
No, but I agree with you. I was really addressing the idea. We're sitting here in September. And if we're waiting 5 months to even start,
Maybe not.
Yeah,
to
I don't know
start.
that we're gonna have to wait, I guess, Patrick.
Yeah, no, that's
I
fine.
know that I know you're worried about the details of how this rolls out, but I, you know, I guess
No,
I'm not quite seeing how that would be a problem to not have that level of detail to do the community engagement process.
No, I think as long as the community engagement includes, like, everything is on the board. Like, in other words, let me give you an example. We got lots of places that are not like Glendale Middle Road that have lots of, like, strong water and sewer. All right. Now, if there's a 0.9 acre lot and we could put 2 tiny homes on it with a slight change to bylaw that would allow for 2-family tiny homes rather than a single family, we might be able to accommodate 2 young people who have no place to live right now other than $2,000 a month in South County. That's just an example of I just want to make sure we're looking at what all of our options are all around town in a way that we didn't anticipate until we knew this law was out there. So I'm not going to spend more money on this planning, a lot less is my point. I would rather do something comprehensive that looks at what all of our options are, including this option. So I just want our RFP to be expanded.
but Patrick, I think that's your global view is great, but we only have so much budget. We're not directed to look at the whole community. We're really looked at affordable housing and specifically
I'm talking
what to
about-
do with this.
We're talking about affordable
Well, I
housing.
think we do have to look at all the options. I mean, we are focused, that was one of my things that I was gonna bring up. We are focused, it seems like, on one property when we talk about, the community. I personally agree with Patrick and some of the slight conversation that he's presented here is these small parcels, if you can put 1 or 2 single families, they're gonna feel like they're more part of the community instead of just a big complex like what we have in Barrington, down by Guido's. It's just different. I think I'm speaking for myself. I love moving into a neighborhood that had a mixed age of people, when I did mine. And I think that's positive. I think we definitely need to take the time to look at options instead of, it is just around the corner too. I think we just have to accept the time and do whatever we can do on your project now, but definitely keep our minds open.
Yep. And
I think, can I just offer a thought here? I think an important next step is to reach out to Berkshire Regional Planning Commission about the master plan. There is some overlap, in the community engagement process that the trust fund wants to do for this property, and the master plan. And some of Patrick's ideas around, and other housing development potential may come through in that master plan process.
Well, the planning board and the select board are going to determine whether we do a master plan too. It's not going to be
I know.
our, so we're certainly not committing to that yet, but I think with all so many variables.
I think it's fair to say that we have a specific challenge, which is affordable housing. We have on our plate this property, which we've been given, and finding out whether it can be developed, and if so, how, is one of our major activities.
We also have on our plate that the Stockbridge Housing Authority approved taking a look at the next step at Heaton Court. So we really have 2 projects on our plate. We already have approval from their board and we have this gift from Morris. So at the very least, I want us to help us understand what those 2 options are. I love the fact that the Morrises gave us this property, but let's not skew our thinking by just assuming that we have to. It's a great gift but now we still have to look at what all of our options are and prioritize our highest best use of where there is available infrastructure and what it costs to get it, whatever units we have as a goal to get in there.
It seems to me, Patrick, it seems to me that as we go forward, as Eileen was saying, there's no reason not to do the community engagement part of the planning for the Morris property in the next several months. And, that doesn't preclude then also doing some work at Heaton Court and also looking at other properties as the state plan develops more. So I don't see it as, it has to be one versus the other.
Mm-hmm. If I could, so we don't get lost, if we could continue to come to some sort of resolution, whatever that may be, about whether we go forward with some planning process that's focused on the Glendale Middle Road property. I'd like to see what kind of consensus we have on that. And then, Patrick, we haven't been approached by the Housing Authority.
They voted. I went and talked to them a year ago and they voted to do it. We just haven't done anything with it yet.
Who's they?
The Stockbridge Housing Authority is an appointed board between the state, the town, and the residents. It is the formal representative of that, and they have voted already.
Okay, which is great. But the question is, what involvement, if any, do they want our group to have?
Yeah. Well, but I think
So on that note, I just want to point out a difference here, and I think you were just getting there. So the Stockbridge Housing Authority project, your role may be more just being supportive and offering some CPA funds or whatever, right? I mean, that you don't own that, but in the case of the property we're talking about doing the community engagement on, you do own it. So you are taking the lead and you're doing the work and the effort to try to create that opportunity as something that's going to be attractive to a developer at some point. So that work, needs to progress over time. It may, including things like, getting the town to get the grants to pay for the major infrastructure improvements, understanding what the community, like there's lots of steps that are gonna, I think they can track simultaneously, I guess is what I'm saying. But you're in the lead on this one because you own it. That's why it's a little different, I think.
And Eileen, the town does own, there's really two options at Heaton Court. There is there is some land that may be in a conservation restriction just north of it, but the town does own the old dirt road that used to be Prospect Hill before they rerouted it down the hill way back in time. And that is basically between the Marians and Heaton Court. That is already town land that we want to evaluate for town, because that might be the more realistic place to add 10, 12 units up there or something.
There's property in front of there too.
Yeah,
The renters who
I know.
live there don't want you to put it there, but they're renters.
Yeah.
They're not taxpayers.
yeah.
And it's town property, and if the town says
State
that
property, but
that's gonna be a good place to put them, then they really don't have too much of an input.
That's a big road behind them too.
Yeah. That's, you could go up and close in on the Marion property, we're just brainstorming here. The point is we don't have a plan yet,
Could I bring us back? Mark, yes. Mark? I see you making a sign.
I think he's muted.
He's trying to figure it out.
Oh, I just must have been moving my hands or something. No, I'm listening. I'm feeling
Okay.
that we have to be able to look at the big picture, as Patrick is saying, but then we really have to focus on determining what, if anything, can be done at the Morris property. So I wouldn't want to hold up progress on that effort. But at the same time, I'd be happy to explore other things, including some of the individual parcels that are in tax lien situations, and you might be able to get ones and twos in here and there, and then use this new state law to take advantage of having smaller properties with less restrictive zoning. There's a whole big menu of possibilities. Of course, it comes down to funding and who wants to develop it and who's got the money to put up 10 units, up at Heaton Court, and who would want to take on the Morris property. There's a lot of big questions, but I don't think we should just focus on one or the other. I think we should do the big picture and chip away at all of it.
Is there anyone willing to make a motion as to our next step?
Do we have a proposal from your bear group yet?
No. I think I just talked to her to get information. I think that I guess, Eileen, we could get a proposal, and if the work costs more than 10,000, we'd need to go out for a request for proposal. and
Yeah.
send it out to a list or, publicize it.
Right.
Isn't that correct,
Yeah,
Eileen?
correct, and I think that you will end up in that position. I think it will be more than 10,000. I think what this conversation today was about sort of getting agreement on the concept, and then the next step probably, Brandy, is for you and I to actually write a proposed RFP. And we could certainly use Judy's expertise to maybe help us frame that a little bit. But I think that's probably the next step. I think if there was a motion to move forward with developing an RFP for this community engagement process, that might be the next step.
Sure. Well, let's develop an RFP. I'll make that motion. You know?
Thank you.
Second it.
If it's possible, I think that to the degree that it could be as encompassing as possible, Eileen, I would certainly appreciate that. I feel like we're swimming and we don't know how deep we're in, right now. We got a lot of options and, as a board, at least speaking for myself, this is also new. We're looking for, leadership and guidance that maybe is a little broader than, the one thing, but anyways, okay. So I made the motion.
Second.
Second, we have a motion. Would anybody like to talk about it further?
No, I think it's a good step.
All right.
All those in favor, Jan,
Hi, Jan.
Mark,
Aye, Mark.
Patrick,
Aye.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Liz.
and I, Randy. The motion passes. I would like to just have in the minutes that to recognize Patrick Point and to see what leadership we could bring with the planning board or what other organizations in the town to start the process of a master plan. I think since ours is so old, we don't really have standing to be in charge of it, but perhaps we could raise our voices.
But this is like, I can't emphasize enough how seismic these changes could be for Stockbridge. And we either get in front of this or we basically are going to have it's going to be the Wild West here. You're talking about, undersized lot could be anywhere from a 1/4 acre to 3.9 acres in R4. It could be anywhere from a 1/10 of an acre to 0.9 acres in R1. I mean, the amount of impact this could have on this town, I don't think can be understated in terms of land use. And I just feel like we need to get our arms around this as quickly as we can.
Okay.
And I agree with some of the comments that Mark was making that as wonderful as, as Patrick indicated, as great it was for the Morrises to donate this property to the town, I think that we've sort of been stalled because our focus has really been unilaterally directed at what we're going to do with the Morris property. And we've sort of taken our eye off the ball about what other options might be available in town, whether it's town-owned property, already town-owned property, or other available properties that we could basically utilize to do, a parcel with, 2 or 3 units on it, and just start chipping away at the need that's clearly been identified through the work that Jan and the trust has done on the housing production plan.
As parcels come up, I mean, my concern is I'm a realtor. And as parcels come up, if they're good and they're reasonable, they're gone in a day. And we don't have a plan to be able to grab those.
Right.
That I don't know how we make that, where do we get the funding for that, but we don't have funding to buy it.
Eileen, I don't know if you agree with this, Eileen, but I expect these type of undersized parcel development to be somehow deed restricted. So in other words, because it requires full-time residential, not even like a Tanglewood rental that can be more than a short-term rental, which is 30 days. These require full-time residential occupancy, whether it's as ownership or rental. And I imagine that involves a deed restriction in terms of their availability to be developed. So there will be a little bit less pressure on these, but let's face it, this is Stockbridge. For someone who wants to live here now, they could basically build a house on a piece of property that they didn't anticipate, so who knows?
One of the first steps is we can ask the assessor to print off how many non-conforming lots Yeah.
But remember, it's not just, it's only, this is only around lot size. They still have to meet frontage and setback and wetlands regulations. So, yeah, those three, the way I read it, Eileen, I don't know if you agree, is that those three, we still have to maintain
Yeah.
as well as the floor ratio, basically the mass and the footprint.
So again,
Right,
though,
no, I agree, Patrick.
that well, Bruce, your point about looking at different kinds of sites is good. But what you're talking about, Patrick, is looking at how the law or this new law is going to impact the whole town, which absolutely falls under the planning board, who should, as opposed to us.
Yes. Well, we
Yes.
can't do anything.
No, but let me just give you a kind of quick, my job is, in my regular job, I'm kind of a numbers guy. So just give a quick off the cuff thing. You can get on Amazon, really nice. They have so many of these kits now. This might be 500-600 square feet that you can get for in the tens of thousands, not the hundreds of thousands. And, Sally and Gary just put in water and sewer for 35 grand, septic and a well for 35 grand. So all in on a small buildable lot, that might not be worth a lot because the second homeowner can't build on it, where most of the market here is, might be $100,000. Well, with interest rates coming down, you might be able to finance that at $800-900 a month. And one of the things I talked to Andrea today is about how on a 600 square foot lot like that, she can get Section 8, she can get vouchers, Eileen, that would cover most, if not all of that. So we don't need a lot of money to finance like little one-off 600 square foot homes where you've got a section is where the state pays the rent. And the great thing there is that the state's paying the rent, so nobody's ever walking out on it. It's guaranteed. It might be a whole different model for doing rentals that we haven't thought about yet because we didn't have this option before. It's just one example. Or those could be for home ownership. Let someone go in and own their own home for a $900 mortgage rather than, paying rent at $2,000 a month in Pittsfield or Great Barrington. I don't know the answers to these things,
I
but
think you're hitting an important point. I'll just pick out one thing and emphasize it is the second homeowners don't want less than 1,000 square feet. They're building these larger houses. They've got, their driveways are bigger than the lots you're talking about. So I think that's an important thing to
not all.
emphasize.
Not all. But yeah.
You could be in advertising. That was a great line.
Yes, not everybody.
This is a very, very useful conversation. I do think, Patrick, I'm sure you will not let us forget your points,
Yes,
but
I'm sure I won't.
we thank you for that. Right now, looking at how we can get some additional affordable housing in this town
Yeah.
is our charge.
Yeah.
And we have one very big option in the Morris land. And I do think that we've made it a first step to say the community outreach part of the planning process is our next step.
All right.
So I thank you.
Can I ask a question about the property in Glendale?
Sure, we are now in the section where we're going to ask. There you are. You have just asked at the right moment.
Okay.
Eileen, is this still pouring? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was just wondering if you're in torrential rain still, or if everything's okay.
No, it's not torrential rain. So
Okay.
I'm good at the moment. Thank you for checking.
Okay, just a second. Eileen, if you can stay on, that would be great and listen. Mrs. Forbes wants to say.
I just have a
Yep,
question.
I'm gonna say.
Excuse me for interrupting, just for Jan's
Oh.
and Mark's benefit.
Coke Forbes,
Introduce yourself, please.
I just did.
Yep.
Okay. Has the board put out or requested any developers to go onto that property as of yet?
No.
No.
We've had people trying to get on the properties, saying that they're potential developers, they're going in to see what the property looks like so they can put their bid in to you people.
Yeah, no.
Let them. We don't even have an RFP yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's why we're asking, because we have people.
That raises a question. Are we, and this might be a question for the town to answer, for Michael and legal to answer. Okay, because the town, the trust now owns that property, is it?
We can post it. Yeah, we
Can
can.
we post it so that people don't do that, or are we required to let people on to look at it? I don't know the answer to that.
They're trying to, the person that was run off was trying to get up the road to the solar field that way to get onto the property.
So we just need to put private property signs everywhere.
Now, is it though? That's my question. Are we allowed to do that?
One of the biggest problems is if Patrick Vincent is not home, those two are at the same level. There's nothing for them to go off of Patrick's Road onto the gated road, which,
Yeah.
I thought there was a sign on the gate that said no trespassing.
yeah, but like it says,
That's why
they
they
go
park in
up
Patrick's
to
yard.
Patrick's driveway.
Different path.
Quarters of the way up, you can literally just
Yeah.
drive over onto
I-
the town road.
Yeah, I wish,
There's
Well,
nothing,
he's got a fence up there now.
oh, he does?
Yeah.
No.
I wish there was a way to say, I wish there was a way to say you can't, we could keep everybody off.
Yeah.
I mean, I represent properties that I sell and there are private property signs there and they just walk by them.
Well, we
I mean-
just, as the neighborhood wanted to know, maybe you guys
No,
have
we
done
haven't.
this.
No, you know everything we've done.
People, and
I think we should explore whether we can post it, and I would support
Yeah.
posting it if we're able to. Until we're ready with our RP, we don't need a whole bunch of people.
We will
Yeah, right.
inquire.
But remember, if it's posted, I mean, I don't know if locals are kind of going on it to like hang out with that, you remember, posted is posted for everyone.
people back there. I mean,
All right, well, I was just asking because it's your neighborhood. I mean,
This is our, Jackie, you have something?
I don't know if anybody can see me. I'm Jackie Harris. I live on Glendale Middle Road. I just had a couple of follow-up questions. When we talked about the sewer study and going in to do the work, I want to know what baseline information are you using to do the study? In other words, we have an environmental feasibility that cited various locations for potential development. Some of those locations were very close to the rear lot line of many of us sitting here. Some of the locations were further pushed back. And I know at the last meeting of the Housing Trust, there was a lot of conversation about what the committee actually wants to develop. So that's unclear to me at this point, what the committee really thinks should be developed on the site, because there was conversation about, is it rental, is it home ownership, et cetera. But just a very basic question in terms of the $7,900. What will the engineer, and thankfully our friend here, Peter, is an engineer as well. But where are the potential 60 bedrooms located on the site?
There's no need to do that, Jackie. It's just a capacity issue in the street.
Yeah.
So they're looking at, if there were 60 more bedrooms on that land or in your house or anybody's house on that street, and we needed capacity for 60 more bedrooms, what would you have to do to the pipe? It won't answer any questions about where to build.
Yeah, it doesn't answer any questions about where units would be located, only what would be necessary to increase the capacity to accommodate that number of bedrooms.
and I reiterate, we're looking at 20 and 60.
It's my understanding that this is only gonna look at from wherever they need to in the center of Glendale or wherever to where the road would begin, not going into the development.
That's correct.
Okay, that would be additional
Right.
cost on top of.
That's exactly.
Yes, the proposal, as I'm sure no one would be surprised to hear, leaves it open that there could be additional costs that they would incur after they start to do this process, if it goes beyond the limits of the proposal that they have made up to this point in time. So they fully, there's certainly left the door open for the fact that as they go through the process, they may determine that are additional things and additional costs that would need to be incurred in order for them to give us the full answer.
Okay, that's very helpful, thank you. I'm also encouraged by this conversation because it feels collaborative, and that's a good feeling for many of us here. The other question I had was, in terms of just owning the property itself, the last time, I mean, we don't have a name, but
We do have a working name, and it came from me because I like to have names, and it's Lily Pad Village. I find that fun and at least something that we can tack on. My colleagues have not voted or said whether they like this name. But anyway, that's the only other name that's come up, and it just came from me.
Lily Pad Village reminds me of the section of water on the left side of Averick Road.
It feels like a
as you're
swamp.
Driving on the opposite side
It is
of
a swamp.
the reservoir, which is completely covered by lily pads. So I don't know where you came up with that, Ronnie.
I think we could come.
We just have, let's pick the five initials of the neighbors here. We'll call it P, J, C, P, and C, another C.
We'll never remember that.
GMR donation. Little
the word village has a certain connotation to it.
Right,
but,
it does.
But at any rate, in terms of the ownership of the property, is the property under the ownership of the trust?
Yes.
Or is it under the ownership of the town?
The trust.
The
Trust.
Okay, so.
We are the only entity other than the town that that can own property.
So I think I asked this question before. I don't know if I got an answer, but should there come a time if the property is disposed? Who has to give approval for that? Is it only the trust, or will it require town approval to dispose of property?
When you say dispose, what are you referring to?
If the town decides we don't want to.
If the trust decides.
Talking about the trust.
If the trust decides, okay, we want to sell this.
It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that there was a time period that if we don't do something with it that builds housing, then it reverts to open space. Now, I don't know if at that point.
Not quite right. It's 5 years. That's correct.
That's what was said.
After 5 years.
Sort of correct.
We, the trust, have not developed housing on it and don't appear to look like we're going to do anything, then it reverts to the town. And in that process, the town could also keep it or give it back to Mr. Morris.
Yeah, because the town has to accept property just the way that we do. You can't just give property to the town. The town has to have I think that's a town meeting,
Right.
to accept property. So the trust can accept property outside of a town meeting, but the town itself has to accept property at town meeting.
Okay, so if the trust decides
Sayonara, yeah.
forward,
Yeah.
that it would like to sell the property, would that require full town approval?
Sell the
I
property?
don't think
Sell
we
it?
can.
We mean give it away. I don't think we have any capacity to sell it.
Do you?
I don't, unless it was for affordable housing to affordable housing developers.
Right, that's what I'm
Oh, I see.
suggesting. So if the property is developed for affordable housing
Mhm.
and it's disposed of to let's say a not-for-profit,
Yeah,
what process would you go through?
I think that's just the trust.
Would it be
Just the
full
trust.
town or just the
No.
committee, just the trust?
If I could just repeat this 3 times.
Okay,
This property is owned by the Stockbridge Affordable Housing Trust.
right.
We have full authority. The town does not, as a town entity, does not have ownership or authority over it as it currently stands. 5 years from now, if we don't do what we're supposed to do with it, then there is a process by which it is disposed of to the town if they accept it. And there's a process with Mr. Morris in the town, and they can decide what to do. We will, if we do something, we will, the word dispose is not the right word, Jackie. We would transfer the property to a developer. We are not developers. We are trying to develop the best process that we can and give the best direction that we can to get the best product for our town. But we're not going to be the people who drive the nails or get the
So it's
permits.
not gonna go.
That's my
open-
point.
It's not gonna go to open space like it was said
Oh,
originally.
it could.
It might.
It could. It could. I don't know what you say originally.
At the first
Right.
meeting, it was said that if you didn't have a plan in 5 years, it would go to the town and become open space.
It could. It could.
Good.
Well, or the town,
Could.
Or the-
no,
Or it's-
because if the town were to reject the gift, it would revert to the Morses. Yeah, the could isn't what we want to do. At the point where we don't build housing, it goes to the town if the town wants it. So you go to town meeting and vote yes or no. It's not up to, my understanding is that gifts to the town have to be approved at town meeting.
So just going back, and I know you answered it 3 times, but I'm still unclear. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
So if the town transfers the property to a not-for-profit developer,
Or for profit,
I mean, if the trust
the trust
or for-profit, does it require full town approval?
No.
said no. Okay.
So.
No, second time. 3, no.
Okay.
Okay, how's that?
Because you didn't say no, you went through a process.
Yeah.
So, but the answer is really simple, it's no.
It's no.
Okay, perfect. And this is the last question I had was, the plan, the housing production plan identified the former Mars property as utilizing 40B. From the date.
Wait a minute, just a second. Jan, I don't think the housing, the more,
Housing- Yeah, the housing production plan did not mention the Morris property.
Right. We don't.
I believe there was, it said donated property, are there other donated?
But it did not name the Morris property.
What's the question?
It doesn't
You
matter.
mentioned it specifically.
All right. Let's acknowledge the donated property is the Morse property.
Yes, let's just
Yeah.
acknowledge, we can talk semantics, but the bottom line is that we all know that the donated property associated with the production plan mentions friendly 40B.
Mhm.
My question is friendly 40B a possibility on undersized lots? We're talking about this state mandate to develop on undersized lots. Is there a lot requirement for
No.
using friendly 40B?
No. Again, friendly 40B is just like it sounds. It's a way for a town to work with a developer to create affordable housing. It's simply, it's a section of state laws. So you can just look it up. If you search Mass State Law, chapter 40B, you can read what all the rules are. But it's not about, it's about overriding certain aspects of local zoning if the town's boards approve it. Yeah, a town like, Sheffield, where they don't have any affordable housing, I'm not singling them out, I'm just using them as an example. You have developers more options under hostile 40B, and that may not be hostile. The town maybe want to have it in it. Just what it's referred to. So the people have less opportunity here because we've made our 10% required. 10% of the census population homes, which I believe was about 1,000 in the last census, which I think is high, frankly, for where we are. We've got 114 units of affordable housing, so we are not subject to a hostile 40B. The only availability is a friendly 40B.
Right,
Yeah.
but there's no lot size requirements
No, I'm not a lawyer.
that friendly
I play one on
40B.
TV. Yeah.
Sorry?
I'm not, we'd have to check. I don't believe there's any lot size requirements, period. The basic parameters around land use are things like, lot size, frontage, setbacks, the footprint ratio compared to the lot size, and the mass, which has to do with how many square feet is in the house compared to the lot size. And the thing that you generally can't get around even with a 40B is wetlands. So you look at those 5 or 6 things, and those are the kinds of things that 40B is meant to make it a little easier to build. It has.
Right, and I understand that as a former planner working with a lot of zoning stuff, right? So, in terms of the former Mars property, we know that the lot, that lot is non-compliant with respect to frontage. So in terms of 40B, I'm sorry, I was gonna ask one last question because I know everybody wants to go home. But in terms of 40B, if cluster housing, for example, was the preferred development, but cluster housing is not allowed in an R1 district,
And we have to be a variance.
But wouldn't 40B, does 40B override, a type of development that's not currently permitted? Will 40B allow anything to be waived with respect to zoning?
But that's a good question for legal counsel. I'm not comfortable answering that.
10%, so it would have to go to zoning.
We have to go to the zoning board of appeals, but it's my understanding that, and Eileen is on, she could probably answer this better. It's my understanding that the ZBA can waive the specific questions of where you're out of compliance with your zoning. You know, that's the whole point, is it's up 40B. And so then it goes to that body. And I'm not, this is an area where it's a little bit gray. I think that we'd have to look at the specifics, but, you know, we also might want to look as a town, for example, I'd rather have two 600 square foot relatively small homes on a lot than one 8,000 square foot home. It's better for the environment, and it's a way to create housing for full-time year-round housing. And that might require zoning change because those one might be affordable and the other might not be. You know, so this is where kind of exploring what all of our options are as a town makes a lot of sense to me right now.
Can we get an answer to that question though?
Yes.
No. I don't want to speak as.
Said before, and I think
Okay.
the committee was gonna follow up, but I did not get an answer, so I think that would be really helpful.
Jackie, here's what we'll do.
Okay,
We have retained a lawyer
okay,
who advises just us, who wrote the trust law
Okay.
and who only represents trusts
yes.
in the state. And her name is Kathleen O'Donnell. And I will ask her to come to our next meeting.
I'll hold on here and that.
We'll find out if you're.
Just get an answer.
Or we could just.
Friendly 40B as it relates to variances.
To a bylaw that you currently can't do.
Yeah, variances.
Yeah, would it require like
Okay.
a bylaw, a new bylaw?
I can also call our town council because, you know, I'm one of the people who can call them and, you know, and I generally don't bug them too much, but I can try to get you an answer. In fact, if you want to jump on a call with me, we could ask her together.
I'd love to.
All right. So why don't you call, you have my number. I'll give it to you after if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
And Jackie, just to make sure that I'm very, very clear about your question, is it does not require a vote of the town meeting in order for us to transfer land that we own to a developer or it would be to a developer, whether they're profit or nonprofit. And so no is the simple answer to the basic question. The process part that I was referring to is that we will go through a process, which you've been watching, of looking at the land and trying to find what we think is the best way to develop it. And within the parameters that we have to operate under, we will try to do the best job we can to find the best people to do if we determine that it can be developed. That's the process.
Confident about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
But if you guys decide that you can't develop it, you can sell it to a developer who can.
No, we do not develop. That is not our function.
Okay. So if you guys say that it's undevelopable,
Developable.
got it, thank you. I have someone else's tongue for a minute. You could give it to a developer to
No,
turn around and do it?
we would work with the town to figure out what they would like to do with it, because our mission is to develop affordable housing.
Okay,
That's what we're going to do.
answer my wife's question. If you deem it unbuildable,
Right.
would you sell it to another developer that has deeper pockets?
No.
I'm gonna say,
That's,
deeper pockets and more money to spend on something like that.
that's not our charter. I'll say it again. I'm on second round here on this one.
We would transfer it to the town.
We would transfer it to the town, who would either take it or give it back to the Morrises. And they would.
And then it would be up to the town, to the voting public to determine what to do with it. Because that'll go to, as Patrick said, that'll go to town meeting.
And the town could, then the town would be perfectly able to sell it to anybody for anything.
The town wouldn't like keep it for Laurel Hill or something like that.
Who
The
knows?
town would have to decide. They could do anything.
The town could sell it
But
to the neighborhood and
if
we could
it's-
all buy it.
If it did get sold,
Get rid of them. Well, people are.
would it be available to do what you want to do to it? Or would they be under the restrictions of the zoning and the lot bylaws?
Oh, yeah,
That you can only put, like, they wanted to put 12 houses in there and the town basically shut them down. They shut them down for 3 reasons. Not enough road frontage, because there wasn't a deeded right of way at that point, water and sewer. At the time, nothing perked back there. They tried for 3 years to perk back there. The lot is, the only buildable part of that property is out in back of my house, Peter's house, and Jackie's house. Everything else is soaking wet now.
Yeah, potentially buildable, not
Potentially buildable. Everything else is soaking wet.
If I could just try again, I know you guys are very worked up about this, but our mission is to build affordable housing.
Right.
We've been given 34 acres of land with the gift specification was to develop affordable housing. We're doing the process right now of going through and looking at all the factors. And if we can determine that it's feasible, we will write a request for proposal to do the project that we determine is desirable on that land. And the people who answer our request and give us the best proposal will be the people that we would give it to.
I believe you still have to go to the ZBA for a variance and prove a hardship.
They would, the developer would. That would be a condition of the gift because we wouldn't do it, Teresa. The developer does that process.
I'm sorry, I thought if you use 40B, there would be a sort of a partnership in terms of the application process itself, that where the town will be an author as well as your selected developer. Is that not true?
Not the town. Mark sits on the ZBA.
Right, I mean, but it would be a joint application.
Whether I can't answer that question, whether it's joint, but the developer, there would be a condition of their accepting the land to get the 40B approval for their, and they would develop the actual, the actual building development plan.
Right, but as I understand it, the co-applicant, there would be co-applicants.
I'm sorry, I can't, that's a technicality I can't speak to in this. Then if it is, we would be. I mean, it's not a big deal. We would still be the owners because a developer is not going to accept the property until the ZBA approves their plan. And at that point, the property would transfer.
Can we get somebody here to walk us through the process at some point as well?
Well, don't you think that's a little premature? We're not there yet.
You know why I don't think it's premature? I don't think it's premature because we just had a conversation about let's delve into like a community participation process. But you were also talking about let's get to design. And so that's why I think it's not premature. And to the extent that the community can be more informed about how this all works, I really think that's sort of helpful. But it's something for you to think about. But
it's not that we want to withhold
I mean,
any information.
from my perspective, as just a schlemiel member of the trust, I think we need to get more information before we can, move in that direction. We already know that at a baseline, water for the property, including firefighting capabilities, is going to start out at $600,000. Dave Prickett could come back with a plan for sewage that could be multiples of that. And so to start to bring people in to talk about what the process is, if we're starting out of the gate at, $1.5 million or $2.5 million just to make it a developable, buildable lot, it does seem premature to me. So I would like to, personally, I would like to at least see what David comes back with, what TPC comes back with, before we take a next step like that.
Let's ask one last question, which is, and it's something that we talked about or I listened to in the conversation. Does the trust have a point in which, or a figure in which it would not find development feasible?
I certainly don't know that we've had any specific discussions about that, but
I believe Michaela actually asked
She
at a
did.
meeting, at what point
Yeah.
is
She asked for this time.
development that?
So let's just talk about, let's look at that from a numbers perspective, all right? So for example, let's say that the consultant comes back and says to increase capacity from the water and sewer plant to Glendale Middle Road is $4 million. And then Eileen's group of consultants comes back and says, well, if we're to get a $4 million grant, we got to build 70 units. And at that point, maybe we are able to, maybe we say, well, that's not realistic. On the other hand, if it's $800,000 to do the sewer service and we can do that with 10 units, we might make a different decision. We don't know yet because we don't have the numbers yet. At least the way I work, everything is driven by the numbers. So you basically kind of look at the trade-offs between what the fixed costs are and then what the variable, revenue streams are around each unit, whether you're selling it or whether it's a rental or whatever. And until you have good numbers, it's impossible to answer those questions as far as I'm concerned,
Okay, I haven't heard anything about any road being put in.
Yeah, it's all part of the numbers.
it's all part of the
Everything is a
numbers.
cost.
No, alls I've heard is water, sewer, none of the infrastructure, the power.
Utilities.
up through everything.
Absolutely.
Everybody's just talking two things, water and sewer.
Right.
It's going to be an impact just with the drainage that's going to be put in there.
Yeah. I think these are all.
All that's coming towards me.
Yeah.
All the water
So
now
can I,
towards me.
Yeah, Eileen, would you go?
can I just jump in? It might be helpful to, in the big picture, what the trust is trying to do is to provide enough information and potentially funding for the road infrastructure to bring in the water and the sewer that makes it an attractive project to a developer, right? That's the work that we're trying to do now. Anything that happens on the land is going to be a cost to the developer, right? So, and it will be an expensive site cost because we will address all those things around drainage and those types of things, right? Any developer has to do all that stuff. But what we're trying to do right now is sort of create a story. I used to say, like, it's sort of like, dating. You want to put your best foot forward on the first date. You pick out the right outfit. The trust is trying to make this site attractive. So your focus is on the things like, I would not develop on that site right now if there wasn't a trust there that was willing to work with the town to write the grants to MassWorks and others to get the water sewer brought down to the entrance of the site, right? No developer, it's going to be cost prohibitive. That's probably why the 12 unit, was vetoed, because the question was like, the town needs to pay for that. But there are grants and ways to do that. So we have to get a sense of what that would cost. And then we need to think about how can we pay for that before any developer's really going to find this site attractive. I don't know if that's helpful, but.
We're just trying to establish a baseline, so that we can basically, as Eileen said, think about whether this is going to be an attractive story to a developer or not, to basically take the baton and run with it at that point in time. It may not be.
Mhm.
We're open to the fact that the number could just be too high and it's not going to be an attractive story to people.
I think.
When they have to deal with all the other things that you've mentioned, drainage, road, frontage, all the rest of the stuff, utilities.
But as described, we're talking about an AMI of under 80%.
We don't know. With home ownership, you can go higher.
It's referenced in the plan about.
I know, but with homeowner, I think that home ownership is allowed to go even up to 110 in some instances of AMI. So we don't know what the AMI is yet. We're really, the land just got dropped in our lap. We're really just starting out.
Mark's got his hand up.
Mark, you haven't had a chance to speak. Mark?
He's still muted.
Yeah, no, I'm back. Sorry, I occasionally put my hands in such a way that looks like I'm calling for attention here. I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves on some of these points about how we're going to dispose of the land if this doesn't work out, and spending a lot of time churning around information that maybe people are curious about, but isn't really front and center of where we are and what we're trying to do. We've got to get this utility business figured out. What could possibly be done with this land? What might be the projected expenses for some of the utilities? What kind of density it could be support? Is there enough density to attract a developer to do it? They need a certain volume in order to make the thing work out. There's so many questions, and we're still at a phase where we're sort of assessing the situation here and saying, what can we do with this? And until we get answers to some of these questions, there's just a lot of speculative stuff. I would go back to the idea that while we are awaiting maybe this several months to get the water sewer worked out, and to the point about drainage and whatnot, yes, very important. We can't build this thing and then start flooding the homes of existing homeowners. But in the meantime, while we're waiting to see what this land can possibly do, we should be trying to make some headway in other areas as well. But I'd like to see the conversation focus a little more on what's right in front of us rather than speculating about who we might give the land to 5 years from now if it doesn't work out. I mean, that's just not front and center for us, and it's taking up a lot of time that I don't think is particularly useful to the group.
Right.
Thank you, Mark.
Can we move to the next meeting, next agenda? I mean, if everyone's.
The next agenda item is adjournment.
Say one thing, I think what Tom was asking is what Wayne Slovic was asking at that meeting. How, is there a number that you guys have
No.
to say?
We have no
we can't
numbers.
Sink any more into this?
We don't have any
Not
numbers,
yet.
okay?
Not yet. We haven't had that.
But I mean, you guys don't have
Well-
something that you've already talked about that
Well,
no.
if we go past this, we can't.
You've been at all the meetings.
That's right. But that was at the last planning board meeting, and this is the first time we've met since then. So we haven't had that discussion.
Okay.
And we're not actually going to have that discussion for quite some time.
Right, because we're not, until we know more about how this works and what it costs, like Marcia says, just speculative. I mean, we're not ready yet.
Understand.
Yeah.
I really do understand, but I hope you understand that this has caused a great deal of upset in our community.
Yes.
We do.
So-
We surely understand
I
it.
so
Absolutely.
sensitive. I can appreciate what Mark said, but I really hope you're also sensitive to this process as it relates to potentially putting a road between two single family homes.
Yep.
Jackie,
So-
I'd hope you understand that we are reaching out, but we're at one place, and I know you would like the final answers because you're anxious about this, but we don't have them. There's no secret meeting. There's no secret thing that we're trying to do. Everything that we do is in public at these meetings.
I understand. I'm just saying that, a cloud has been created over our properties.
Right.
So I just hope that, you keep that in mind as well as we ask these questions.
Could I ask you to think about the opportunity that is now before you?
All right.
The
don't
opportunity
know.
of having lights like a Kmart behind our house now, that's not an opportunity.
Having people going in and out because people are gonna be working all night shifts. My backyard's gonna be lit up.
Yeah.
every time they come out of the woods.
You talking six, if you put 60 units and there's a husband and wife in there.
60
they're going to work.
60 bedrooms, not 60 units.
60 bedrooms.
Still,
Yeah,
you
I-
got husbands and wives going to work, the traffic that's gonna be going between my house and Billy's house, all those lights right in our backyards, all hours of the night.
I don't think that you've seen anything yet that would validate those concerns.
At least we have. We don't have to have it.
But when we say that-
Going.
Where Foresight has already planned where the road is gonna be, it's within 8 feet of my property line. Now, I went back and looked at all of the paperwork that you gave us. The original lot that went in has a nice border all the way around it. Billy's got a border from the road to his side. They forgot ours. They forgot ours. There's 40-foot buffer zone on one side. If they put a 40-foot buffer zone on my side, your road's gone. The property going up through is gone.
Since there is no plan, but we'll keep working at this.
That's if there's.
Please come again.
That's if there's no plan. Why did you guys spend all the money and have Foresight?
Foresight did.
This is something.
Foresight did an engineering plan.
Wait. Remember, Foresight wasn't just figuring out what was buildable. They were figuring out whether there were things like, any illegal dumping in the past, where there might be chemicals. There were a lot of things Foresight was tasked with. It's actually good to know whether we build or not. Like you hear stories about people dumping PCBs all over this county. We found no evidence of that, for example, on the property.
That neighborhood.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Foresight's job was to understand if anything, we could do anything. It wasn't just to map out what areas were potentially buildable. It's all speculative at this point.
You got them.
But we didn't call them in to say, do a floor plan. We came in to say, should we accept this gift, or is there a liability in accepting the gift?
Okay.
Is that, Mark, is that an accident or is it intentional now?
That's actually intentional. Very quickly, over a lifetime of experience, I have learned that in the absence of information, people assume the worst.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we're at a stage where we don't have the information we need to clarify the situation. And so I understand that our neighbors are raising these concerns because they're, in the absence of information, assuming the worst. And I would just say that this group would not intend to put a Kmart behind your homes. And we would take into account, if it gets to the point where this land is even buildable, where we will work with you guys to figure out what's a workable solution. We don't have to put, some giant development back there to make some progress on our goals. We're not going to we don't want to be enemies. We want to work with you. I'm not saying that in the end you'd be 100% happy with everything that's done. But we're not trying to be the bad guys here. We're trying to achieve a community goal of housing with a piece of land that's been generously donated to the town, and we're determining what the potential is. And in the end, we're going to try to work with everybody in the town to make something that we can all be proud of, even if we're not all totally thrilled with it. Anytime you put in a development and you create new housing in an area where it has not existed, it does impact other people. And you get into sort of a conflict of goals where there's a goal to provide more housing for people that need it and a goal to try to preserve the lifestyle and standard of living for the people who are there. And those can come into conflict, and those conflicts have to be sorted out. And we will sort it out. There will be a good process. You can see from the committee members that you're dealing with that we're open to ideas. Nobody's being dictatorial, and we want to work as a community on this. But until we have more information, I know you're going to assume that it's going to be the worst. And I don't know what to say about that. Is we'll just get the information and we'll keep working with you.
All right.
Thank you, Mark. I think we need to move on. The clock is ticking, and we need a date for our next meeting.
I thought we were going to wait to see when Peter and others might be available, because we were going to try to
We're
have,
going to find out right now by picking a date. Peter, are you looking at your calendar? So
3 o'clock is just a horrible time for us.
So later, that was a mistake.
This was just a mistake. We're going to meet at 4 o'clock. So, sorry, that was
The 25th.
of October?
Is that too late?
Well,
And we were trying to meet monthly, right?
That's a
no, we're
Friday.
trying,
Can we do not Friday?
Oh, is it Shay Friday or no? Oh, no, it's Thursday.
Thursday, it feels like
Yeah.
Friday.
Thursday the 24th.
All right.
of what,
I can't.
October?
October.
You can't.
That's not meeting.
Um,
oh, it's a big Jewish holiday.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, for the out of here in time.
17th to 31st.
Halloween.
No, 31st. That'd be fun though. We can all wear costumes.
Oh,
It would get really scary.
Oh, now our kids
Oh,
keep
come on.
going.
how about the 17th? Jan?
Should we come in
17th?
costume?
Do you like Thursday? Or should we go back to Monday?
Thursdays.
Thursday's fine or Monday. Which day were you thinking of?
Well, the 17th is a Thursday. What about you, Mark? Are you,
Good.
I know you're traveling a lot now.
No. I'm putting my suitcases in the attic for a while. That's a great date. 17th is good for me.
4 o'clock.
That works.
I can't,
You can't either.
What, you can't, Bruce?
no, and this is that time of year when, anyone, who celebrates Jewish holidays is, really, has a difficult time.
What works for you?
The 31st I can do.
That's
How
Halloween.
about before that? That's Halloween.
31st, no?
No, it's the Halloween.
That's Halloween.
Yeah, but so what?
No?
Why don't we do it?
I'll be in Boston. I will
All right,
not be here.
Okay.
I mean,
Could do,
So what, how
do that
many of
Monday?
these holidays do you have in October?
What's that?
How many of these holidays do you have in October?
well, how about you give us a date that would work?
with the 28th work?
Give us a, all
It
right.
doesn't have to be a Thursday. How about the
It doesn't have to
29th?
be a Thursday.
7,
Okay, give us a day that you don't have.
28th, 29th, all fine.
How about the 29th at 4 o'clock? Would that work?
I can make it work.
29th at 4.
Mark, Jan?
Well, that's hard for me, but
Tuesday's not good for, what about you, Mark?
Yeah, 20.
What about
29th is fine.
Monday? Do you
How
have
about the
a problem?
28th, Jan? Can you do the 28th?
yeah, 28th is good.
Can you do the 20th?
I can do 28th.
Okay,
All right. So 28th at 4 PM.
what about you, Liz?
I
Okay.
think so.
Mark,
Mark, 28th?
28th,
Okay,
good.
so the
are
only,
you good?
we need to check, Michaela's not here because she's in
All
training.
right, well, we'll have a quorum. It only takes
Yeah.
4 to have a quorum.
Okay,
Okay. Mr. Adjourn?
28th.
28th at 4, we said, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's when it'll.
yeah, I apologize for the time problem this time. Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Yep. Motion adjourned.
adjourned. Thank you.
Second. Bye. Bye, Bruce.
Thanks.
Mark,
Jen.
Hi,
Bye,
Mark.
Dan. Bye. Bye,
thank
Mark.
you, thank you both. Thank you all
Bye,
for
Jan. Bye,
coming.
Mark.